because this discussion can get complicated. There's a lot of differences. You're talking about doing 2 pools. We got a big agenda. We're already half an hour in. I'd prefer to workshop the pool renovation and maybe some of the other stuff that's coming up, but that's just my opinion.
Would that be a workshop? Wouldn't that be a regular meeting? Because it requires board approval. We don't approve anything.
It's to discuss all the various options that are included here. And not take any action, obviously, but I suspect you're going to spend a significant amount of time once you dig into these proposals, but
I'll leave it up to the rest of the board. It seemed fairly straightforward to me. My only concern is that I would like to see more of their either qualifications or experience pools they've done. I checked one of their references. I tried to check several references, but didn't get anything back except for the one, and that was for Spies. And they gave an excellent reference, and that individual's a property manager.
The Lake Jones Home
of organizations, and they had excellent work with Spies. So I'll leave it up to the board. Is anyone ready to make a decision tonight, or do you want to spend more time studying it?
And Julie answered
Questions.
What are you doing?
So we have a spreadsheet, and Julie, if you did that, thank you very much. How urgent is this work to be done?
So I did have a conversation with today, and he said that they kind of make a decision because the time to do it is the winter time. To get on their schedule, kind of to speed. Got a couple lined up, and they said he specifically said if you kind of give them a direction that you're going in, they can pencil it in. But it's like, I understand how long it takes to at least 2 to 3 months because you Cove to come and inspect and stuff. So you kind of want to like decide when you want this to be done. To my knowledge, there is visibly stuff going
yes.
bad on this.
Yes,
I mean, it's pretty.
This is not an
passed.
emergency, but it should be a pretty close in priority.
Yes, I'm comfortable today. In looking at what we have in front of us, I know there are a lot of different options, but Spies has been working on our pools for quite a while. Gerhard, unless I hear differently from you, I understand they've been doing a good job.
Yes, Spies is they're in business for 32 years,
Mhm.
and they've been doing very great. They're highly recommended,
Mhm.
and they really know what to do.
And there are different options, but for Ashley Park, it looks like everybody's right around 23,000. Now Spies does have an add-on for LED lights, which would bump it up another couple of thousand. But for the Ashley Park pool, everybody is basically right in the same ballpark. The swim club, Spies is a little bit higher, but very little bit. And again, they offer an option to adding the LED lights, which I think it's important to have our lights change out to LEDs. Theirs is 62,992. The Bluescape is 62,580 without coping. And Pool Specialist is 59,871. They had coping, but the next one did not have coping. My other concern is the amount down. Spies was very specific. They wanted 50% down and then 50% at the end when it's totally completed and accepted. Pool specialists want 50% down. Then they want another 40% when they finish the prep work.
Hmm.
And that's just totally unacceptable in my book. I don't want to put 90% up front before they start putting on the finished coat. So as far as I'm concerned, and since they were the low bid, to me, that would be out. And I couldn't get anybody at all to speak about or give references for Bluescape. So at this point, I'm comfortable going with Spies.
Based on past experience, I agree with you. But the scope of work is a little bit, see, the last time around, we got a lousy prep job on the old surface. They didn't prime it. They didn't put the bonding
Right, the
agent.
bonding agent, and it's
And
bubbling up.
what we know is
don't
in
have
the
any.
areas where the stuff is coming up, we know there's no bonding agent because you can see the difference in color when it comes up, right? The bigger question is how much of the remaining surface didn't get bonded and hasn't lifted yet?
Well, that's not a problem. In Spies quote, they are going to take the entire surface down, remove it and redone. The only thing I want us to be sure, and I did see it, it did indicate it.
Chip off and remove existing pool furniture. Yeah, all right. I read
Yeah.
that wrong the first time.
Okay.
That's the part, they only tip off.
Yeah,
They
they're
take off a little bit, yeah.
right. They're going to take off. a
I
smaller
misread
amount.
their scope of work on the big
Mhm.
one to, they were only gonna take off the failed areas, but
Right.
that is not what it says. It says it's gonna take the whole thing off. So
Exactly. I think the scope of work is pretty, I think Julie worked with them very well. And then if there are any minor things as we get the contract in place, then we will address those at that time
the,
and make sure we have a good scope of work laid out for them. So at
The-
this time, I'd entertain a motion. If
the one thing I would like to add, of course, we're gonna have a contract for this, I
Mhm.
imagine.
Oh, definitely.
Yes, yes.
I think we ought to ask, based on prior experience, are all your employees gonna be working on this? And if not, how many subcontractors, who's doing what, and who are they?
Yes, and that was my concern in the 50-40-10. It sounded like
Tim?
they needed that 40%
Pay somebody.
to pay a sub up front, and I'm not willing to do that.
The other thing was, you mentioned LED lights, and I see it here, but I thought we had LED lights now.
The LED light bulbs in there, so what they're gonna put in.
Are they gonna put the new sealed unit with the glow colors and all that?
Complete unit. So
Mhm.
that you don't have any maintenance.
Right.
Okay, let's back up to Ashley Park. Is the repair of the supposed leak that we have, is that included in what Spies has put here, or are we gonna get hit with a change order for fixing the leak?
That will automatically repair.
I will make sure it's in the contract
Of the leak?
of the leak.
Yeah.
I will just tell them that it's got to be. That's that leak in the gutter, right?
Well, yeah, there's an area there over on the, I guess it would be the.
And they're familiar with it because they did the
The west side, I
investigation.
think there's something going on because the ground keeps collapsing and we've had some problems in that
And that's
area.
the west side.
I think, is that right? It's on the west side of that pool? Yeah, west side.
Did you make a motion already?
I don't think so.
Okay, I'll make a motion.
Wait a minute, we talked about coping. There's coping here I missed. I thought that was some of the other ones. What's going on with Spies with coping?
I do not have that noted, unfortunately.
Because that's a big
So-
deal. And the
Right.
coping that's there in some areas is.
And that's on the swim club? I know on Ashley Park, we had a problem with some of it coming out.
Yes. And the swim club has some minor issues with coping and some old stains from the prior project and all that,
Okay.
but you know, the coping, if it doesn't look good,
Mhm.
really detracts from your newly finished pool. It's
All right, so we will sit down and finalize all these final details in a package price. So I would move that we enter into negotiations with Spies for a final contract and start date. Not to exceed with the lights and everything,
Well, it may be more because of the coping, because they don't
Well,
mention
let's
it in
put
there.
$70,000, including Cove. We need a total redo of our pool, a total redo. So if we'll do not to exceed for them, but a not to exceed for negotiating the contract for 70,000, would the board be okay with that? And for,
62, 65, so you got $5,000 in it for coping, yeah. What did the
and
other guys want for coping? Did they call it out?
they did not call it out. One had it, one did not, but
Hmm.
they didn't specify it separately.
Yeah,
Maybe they just left it off their specifications.
Yeah, it may be. We
I
may
mean,
be
it's-
able to
You mean
talk to them
Spies?
and,
Yeah,
yeah.
no,
may.
they're pretty thorough with what they've got here, and that's why I,
We can
So
follow up.
we can follow up, yeah. And then for Ashley Park, it would be not to exceed of 26,000 with the LEDs and tile.
And what about coping there?
just do an overall,
All at once.
not to
wanna-
exceed.
Do an overall for both pools and not to exceed
If we're having the same
100,000.
contractor do both polls, I mean,
Right.
yeah, we're gonna have 2 separate contracts, I think.
We will do 2 separate contracts and it'll be, we're not going to close down, at least I don't plan on closing down both pools at the
Right.
same time, so.
But in our approval, we can approve whatever
Right,
combined
for the-
amount, and if they need to.
yeah, you can,
Right, so I would ask the board's approval to go with Spee's pool for a not to exceed for both pools of $100,000. And we'll negotiate that contract out for the work to be done this winter.
Seconded.
So
I have a
moved.
motion and a
Who
I have a
moved?
motion and a second. No, I will let Supervisor Castle make that motion
Sorry.
and Supervisor Leet seconded it. All in favor?
I,
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. All right, we'll get that project underway. Okay, next item on the agenda for old business is the demand letter. We have an attorney in the background and Mr. Perez.
Again?
We're just looking for guidance, what the board wants us to do, or at least from my standpoint.
Okay, we had the tree evaluated, since nobody else is speaking up here.
this is a tree that's on the corner of Buttonbush Loop, and it's on the south corner of Buttonbush Loop and Catbrier.
Correct.
So the tree, we had a certified arborist, visit this address and put a certified assessment on it. And there is in the agenda, there's on page 09, there's very thorough detailed report of what he found with the tree, and he gave some options. The first is to remove the main branch, balance the canopy, but this is what you second option is to stake or guide the tree. That would require use of private property not owned by the city. And the third option is basically to remove and replace the tree with different species. So the biggest issue with this tree in his assessment is not so much the amount of limbs and canopy removed. It's more, there's one cut that was made in the pictures that you all see, the board sees, that did kind of, it's going to impact the long-term health of that tree and stability of that tree in severe storm, which could increase the liability of that tree falling or failing. Unfortunately, arborists, and doesn't matter if Cervello has an arborist or whatever arborist comes out, there's no guarantee, there's no,
Crystal ball.
there's no timetable to say how soon this tree will go. I think that's stated in well. So basically, we need the board to discuss what option they want to move forward with. The reason that he's recommending a different species of trees to promote diversity is if you look down Catbrier, there's a lot of live oak trees that are already there. And over time, when these trees are planted, their roots haven't fused together or made contact with each other. But now that they're at this point of maturity, the roots have now intertwined and can fuse together, graft together, and is a disease like sudden nose death that does impact one people, it's kind of like impacting all of them down the street. So he's trying to recommend a different species to kind of alleviate that potential for something like that, eliminating a lot of trees down the road.
And
Well,
it-
overall, it does make sense, but what does it, these options have to do with the demand to the homeowner?
well,
The demand letter, I mean,
the demand, one, we have to make a decision on what option. If we're going to leave it there, then the cost to the homeowner will be different. What we have for everyone out there, I don't know if you can put the picture of the tree up or not, Dan. But basically our attorney, which is very accurate, these trees are owned by the Community Development District. All of you all own all of these trees. And that's what, one of the things that makes Harmony so special is all of our trees. The tree itself was cut. It was singed slightly in a furniture trailer fire. It was determined that there was no injury to the tree. The tree would fully recover. But the homeowner took it upon himself to cut off approximately 1/3 of the canopy of the tree. And this is what the tree looks like now. If you go by that location, they cut off major limbs on it, which destabilizes it. They cut a cut that goes parallel to the ground, which seriously damages the tree. And there's concern that it can be a liability and can come down. And if it does come down, it won't go towards the homes, it will go down across the street. And it would be a major problem for the CDD if it went down and someone's car or truck was there and someone got severely injured. So the question is, the homeowner that had this work done is liable, just as if they'd gone into one of our bathhouses and knocked down, a bathroom stall or something, by going out and damaging part of the CDD ownership. So that's where we are now, is trying to decide what action we need to do, and the action we choose then affects the amount of payment we're looking to the homeowner for to make that right. There's no reason that every resident in Harmony should bear the burden of making this repair, since it was done by one homeowner. So that is where we are right now.
None of the options are fabulous.
I think that, the fact of the matter is we know what happened. It's documented. We have all of the information. When you look at the tree, this, except for the missing limbs, it looks, it fits in with the rest of the trees on the street. It's thriving.
It's an ugly
Well, I
Supervisor
agree with you there.
Berube, and it's not going to spring back.
Well,
This is,
well, I would
understand
say, I kind of agree. I mean, aesthetically, that's a shame to do that to that tree for sure. But, I mean, trees are pretty resilient. I've seen them completely fall over flat
Yeah.
and still grow. I
They
mean,
keep
so I don't know that this is, everything long-term is just pure speculation at this point. So, I don't know that it's fair to try to go after a homeowner for, how do we assess this amount of damage to a homeowner? I don't think it would be fair to charge him to take out an entire live oak tree and replace it with something comparable. I mean, the tree's not dead.
And you're not going to replace it with some you're going to put in something small.
Yeah, so
that-
4 or 6 inch caliber.
well, excuse me. Unfortunately, this is all at the board. I appreciate that y'all want to interject, but we'll never get through this agenda if we go down that road. The cost that would not be for replacing a like kind tree. We've already said that one, we can't do that. It's not feasible. And the second, we're not charging him for the full value of the tree. So the final charge, when added up with the cost from the certified arborist, and all the costs for the tree removal and everything, which is what he wanted to do. His whole point was to remove that tree. He was stopped halfway through what he intended to do. So, I'm kind of at a quandary because I'd rather not give him what he wanted, which was removing the tree, but that I think it's the only unfortunately responsible way to go. We can't leave that tree there to end up being a liability for our community, because that liability could be huge. And I don't know that anybody wants to take a chance on that.
We have several thousand other trees that are all a liability.
So,
Hurricane comes
The-
through, you can't tell what's going down. Maybe
Right.
that one goes over, maybe it doesn't. It may
Right,
stand
but-
up and all the others go down. You
Well,
don't
if the
know.
other trees fall down, we don't have documentation of, hey, we knew something happened to this tree and we chose to take no action.
Right.
right,
My
we're
only,
on notice.
my quandary is that there are other trees in the community that have been butchered a bit by other homeowners, that where they weren't caught in the middle of doing that work to the tree. They brought in some tree trimming organization and there are a couple of places in the community where there are 2-3 houses in a row where they went in together to have their trees trimmed. And so the whole house side of the tree is missing.
Mhm.
And then there's so if we charge on the one hand, I don't want to let this go, but on the other hand, we need to be consistent in our treatment. We caught this guy in the midst of it, but we didn't catch these other people, and those trees may not be as much of a liability, but we need to have kind of an even-handed approach. So
Yeah,
a
the only
quandary.
difference with those trees is that those limbs were growing towards their house. They took down the limbs, not just growing towards his house, but the ones that are growing. So they basically sheared off all of the limbs that they had no legal right. The other homeowners had at least a legal right to cut up to their property line.
they cut to
Some
the
of them
tree.
came further than their property line,
Right.
and I agree with that. But I think this is a different situation.
He only took off one limb that was growing parallel to the road. Everything else was facing
From
his
this
house.
side. anyway.
No, the one where the vertical cut is,
Yeah, it's 45 degrees off the angle. But whatever. It
that's,
doesn't matter. I
and
mean,
that one is actually growing, the bottom one was growing actually over the street itself.
Right.
So I don't know. If you want to give him a pass, the board can give him a pass. I think it's pretty egregious when he was specifically told not to cut on the tree.
Well, he's already into it for the arborist at minimum, right?
What do you mean?
So, I mean, we had to get in. I agree.
I
mean,
think we should bill him, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, that's to me, and by replacing, I don't know that you're further ahead by taking this out and replacing it with something different. I mean, as opposed to just letting this thing attempt to come back under its own,
right.
I don't know that you
Okay.
replace it with a 6-inch caliper. It's going to be way out of place and take years to.
It will.
Yeah, we have lots of those in the
Yeah, we
community.
do. We do. I just don't think that you're further ahead doing that in this case.
Okay.
I've
and
just
it
seen
would be-
trees come
yeah,
back
It
from.
would be, I think it was more than a 6-inch, but anyway. So what is the will of the board? Do I hear a motion as to whether to leave it and bill him for the arborist work or for whatever work we need to do? I want to hear from the board.
I'll
Well-
move two pieces. I move that we send him a letter requesting payment of our cost up to date for the inspections. I think there were 2, maybe 1 or 2 that we paid for. And also putting him on notice that we're going to monitor this into the reasonable future for the trees decline, and if it goes over, something breaks, and we're going to hold him responsible at that point. But I think that's what the letter ought to say, and we request that he pay us our costs so far for the inspection.
So hold on 1 second. So you're saying send a letter requesting payment for arborist bills and place him on notice for future issues with the tree?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure I got it. Okay.
So I'd like to ask our attorney whether that will fly. In other words, is there some kind of
Uh,
statute of limitations?
Let me do one thing very quickly. I need a second before we go into further discussion. So do I
I'll
have a
second.
second? Okay, I have a motion, and a second. Apologies.
There's a statute of limitations, but I would 5 years is what it is. I'll double.
And how long do we want to give it? 24 months?
That seems reasonable.
Okay. And then he'll be legally responsible. So if,
To replace at these costs,
right,
at the cost that we have in the agenda, which is $9,760. It's on agenda page 211. By the way, folks, this agenda was 617 pages long.
9760.
9760.
So to add to your motion, for future issues with trees for 2 years at the cost listed below.
From 2 years from this time,
9760,
Mhm.
from this time.
9760.
With replacement
No,
costs.
no,
yeah,
that's no,
That's
no.
the
We're gonna have to
arborist-
get you the arborist
I think it was
costs.
$200, but we changed it.
Will, okay. All righty, any further? So, and if it comes down, he'll be liable for any damages it may
Sure.
cause.
Yeah,
If it comes
he's
in.
on notice.
Okay. All right, I've got a motion and a second. It's a long motion, but anybody, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Hearing no opposition, passes unanimously.
If you get that written up right, it'll be a miracle the
I
first
hear
time.
she's great.
Oh,
All right.
let's talk about the agenda
Um,
package.
The later. The next item on our agenda is Buck Lake, the Buck Lake Committee. We just had a meeting. I'll go very, very quickly for you if we can all stay on this agenda item.
Reading this one, it appeared there was less contentiousness
We
between.
did well. We had, one thing we need to do is, because Harmony West CDD owns the lake, I think it would behoove us and in our relationship with them to add them to our liability waiver for people who are going out on the lake and using the lake. So if I hear no objections to that, we can go ahead and add that. We did, biotech came up with a lake management plan. It's in your package. I would ask that the board would approve that tonight. It's very scant. I did try and get them to beef it up. They did beef it up a bit by including torpedo grass in the control. We were going to put water quality monitoring in that, but the Harmony West board shot that down. So I reached out to Lake Watch and we are under a water quality monitoring. So we will have that separate from this particular, but we will have water quality monitoring, which has been ongoing for about a year now. And I'll bring those results to the board at a later date. So I would ask the board to approve the Buck Lake Joint Management Plan between Harmony CDD and Harmony West CDD. I'll make that a motion.
Might have to wait for Steve.
So this is, I just want some clarity because it wasn't exactly clear to me what the CDD, what was being requested of this CDD. And this was back from July. And it sounded like they were requesting our approval of the minutes
Well,
rather
that's-
than requesting our approval of having biotech perform the lake management.
Okay,
So
they
I-
were in July, but we had a more recent meeting in October. And out of that meeting, we don't have the minutes for you yet, but out of that meeting, what I'm bringing forward to us is they would like our approval of the lake management plan. If you want to wait till next meeting, we can do that. But that's what they're asking for now. Also, we dealt with the policies. They have adopted or are planning on adopting all the policies that were approved, which basically mimic all of our policies. And also the annual maintenance contract. And I have good news on that front too, if you want me to go ahead with that. Would you like to do this all as one package?
Well, I'm just trying to understand what's being requested of
Okay.
us as a board.
I-
So,
I'll go over it carefully.
so-
They're asking for us to approve the Buck Lake Management Plan as presented in your board package.
which is to have biotech.
No, the lake management plan just shows what biotech wrapped up, talking about the different invasive species, the water hyacinth,
Torpedo grass.
the other. And in this package, they also call out the old world climbing fern that is right there on the lake shore. So they call all that out and recommend that they don't specify who will manage that,
Okay,
but that's just the overall
okay.
plan.
Is
That's-
that everything that they're asking of us at this point?
That's, well, no, the second thing they're asking of us is to adopt the policies that the committee came up with. And again, we pretty much have those policies in place. The big onus is going to be on them to adopt the policy. But all of the policies that were in your board packet is what we, as a committee, jointly agreed to take back to our boards and say, please, approve these as the policies. We had a head start because we drafted them first. They took ours and pretty much ran with it. We just adjusted. There was a boat length of 18 feet, which we bumped up to 20 since we already have 20-foot boats on the lake. But no gasoline powered engines, no high powered engines, everything that Harmony already has. Tuesday is the day of rest for the lake, and
Okay.
all that's in those policies. They're also asking that we approve entering into a contract with biotech. And again, we don't, the Harmony CDD does not enter into that contract. Harmony West does. And Harmony West, their board has already approved. We have, for the past year, been paying for the maintenance for the lake. So I negotiated with them and we were able to come to agreement that they would forego the initial treatment, which our share would be 50% of $3,500, and the full year of treatment for FY 2022. So basically, they will foot the entire bill for the initial treatment and a full year's worth of treatment in recognition of our past year of treatment of Buck Lake.
But with biotech.
Yes, biotech, to them, that was not negotiable.
And the lake management that she was referring to is on page 4.
Mhm.
So in effect, they're calling the shots
Yeah,
And
that's what we did when we lost the lake.
and we're paying half.
No, we're not paying half this year. I negotiated to where we.
Well, yeah, we had a trade-off because we did lake maintenance for a while.
Yeah, but it didn't cost nearly as much.
Oh, I understand. I
So-
get it.
So anyway, I had them reword the management and monthly maintenance to include that it would be Buck Lake. They're treating all of Buck Lake and the associated areas on the lake shore that can be reached from a boat, including our side of the lake shore. And they will also be treating that for the old world climbing fern. So that really is quite a deal for us because trying to get down to that old world climbing fern that is on the marsh side shoreline of the lake is very, very difficult for our crew. So they will be doing it from a boat for the next year at no cost to us.
So just to be succinct, you're asking us to approve the lake management plan,
Mhm.
the policies that they're proposing that are
Right.
essentially the same policies we have, and the contract, the agreement that we have that they contract with biotech, and we don't pay for the initial contract or the first annual.
That's correct.
So moved.
Are you doing all 3 of these in one motion?
All of them in
Oh.
one motion, all 4, yeah. Management plan policies, annual maintenance contract with them paying 100% for initial and first year. Oh, no, 3.
3.
You're right.
3, okay. So, let's take a step
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing no opposition, motion passes. And that's your update on the Buckley situation. Next item on the agenda is a repair of the Garden Road. It's also under the engineer's business, but since it does take action, is our engineer here? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, David, if you could come right up here, that would be very helpful.
We could roll this, this round disc out here and you could have like a podium.
That's okay. Let him go ahead quickly and we'll move on then.
All right, last meeting, we talked about doing some improvements to Garden Road to make it more structurally stable, not have to continue potholes. And I threw out the cost estimate of $335,000. I think half the board was nuts. So we went back to the drawing board to look at replacing the existing road, what they call recycled concrete aggregate. Basically, it looks like small gravel, 15 inches thick. Osceola County has accepted that as a replacement for the road. Florida Gas Transmission has accepted that as a replacement for the road. And it looks like we're going to get a no permit required from South Florida for that. The only caveat is it's the same alignment and same width. But it's $100,000 versus $335,000. And it's got the same structural strength as your typical subdivision paved road. I think it'll serve your purpose.
This would be similar to the stuff that went in under the bridges, but smaller grain.
15 inches thick.
Yeah, but I mean, the size of each piece.
Maybe about this big around.
Yeah.
So half-
Pea
Concrete
gravel.
fines,
Yeah.
3 inch
Yeah.
minus.
So, so 3 agencies have all basically blessed it. With that said, as soon as I get the official word from South Florida tomorrow, I need to give Amy Powell with Florida Gas Transmission final plans so she can do the agreement between the CDD and Florida Gas Transmission. With all that said, since everybody was cooperating so much, I would recommend that we don't do the short-term fix. We just wait a little bit longer to do the ultimate fix. Because I hate to have Gary Harper gravel down and regrade it, only to rip it all up and replace it. So
Yeah.
if the board is okay with holding off just a little bit longer, we'll solicit bids for the 15 inches to thick of the rock, and then all agencies are good to go moving forward.
So,
And-
so in the agenda, you had not heard back from the county, but the county has since given you approval.
Yeah, they came full circle and said it's replacing the same alignment and width. And the structural number we gave them, they were okay to treat that as a maintenance issue.
Okay, thank you.
And-
didn't require a full-fledged site plan review again.
And this will also, we'll also have to put for FGT that small, low profile fence and the pull-off areas. Okay. So we
So
have it
moved.
fully planned out. I have a
No, no.
motion. Do I hear a
Uh,
second? Let's get a second and then we'll go to discussion. Any second?
I'll second that.
Okay. We have a motion and a
Mike.
second.
Is this just the straight garden road or is this turning over?
It's all the way from 5 Oaks Drive to the entrance to the RV park.
So it's the whole curve?
Yes.
But we pull over areas that some people are conflicting on.
Got it.
Mhm. Yeah, all the drawings and everything were in the packet. So, yeah.
And so when they develop neighborhood M, they're just going to be responsible for repairing whatever they may damage as they develop that neighborhood, right?
Use that road to access the sites.
They probably are not going to be able to avoid it.
What, I'm sorry, I'm missing, where's it neighborhood in?
Behind the stable.
Where the
Yeah.
stables are?
Yeah, to the right of the garden road, or the road to the garden.
Oh, okay. I presume they would come up off of Harmony Square Drive, the entry road.
They don't have anything now.
Yeah, but there is another entrance into
Yeah,
that
there is.
area.
Yeah.
We could prohibit them from using the brand new road with heavy equipment.
Good,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Because once that road is down, you can say you got to repair it all you want.
No,
Yeah,
no.
but is it our road? It's not our property. It's
It is our property.
It's the Florida. Oh, we just,
They have the easement.
they have
but-
the easement. Okay.
They have an easement, but we
Okay.
own.
Did the square footage include the area around the office trailer and whatnot? That always
We
floods.
have other pullover
Yes.
areas are putting your Hart's trailer and either along the.
Along that side. Yep. put it all together and got it approved. The speed of this approval just,
So the
I've
county was very. cooperative.
never seen anything like it before. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Go forth. All right, the next item on old business is Steve Berube. I have
Steve,
no idea. I saw no backup. So
I asked the district manager to table this till next month, please.
okay, this item's been tabled till next month. So our next item, we are moving into new business. On new business is Harmony Cove. I understand that we have a 10th amendment of our drainage easement. We have a blanket drainage easement that originally was over all of Harmony. As neighborhoods come on and development takes place, that blanket drainage easement piece for that development is taken out and replaced by a more custom tailored drainage easement. That's where we are today. We're removing through the 10th amendment. We are removing a portion of property adjacent to the townhome and condominiums, and approving, also asking to approve a new drainage easement that goes over a large pipe that connects the main front stormwater pond through to where the Brownies repair was, and then to the golf course pond. Interconnects those. It's currently in place. It's a concrete pipe, as was indicated by the developer's assessments. And if it's not, they're going to put a concrete pipe in, right? Do you have anything to say, Mr. Boyd?
I'm just here as representative of the developer.
Okay.
Any questions you might have about it?
All right, great. So that's what's before us. All the information was in the packet. There have been some minor legal changes. A change at the original one talked about an appurtenant easement. It needs to be a gross easement. Basically, what that is the gross easement rides with the entity, like a utility, or in our case, the CDD.
No, just one.
So no matter what lands a CDD owns or doesn't own, this easement will still remain in place with the CDD instead of the other way around. It's been legally reviewed. Any questions about these two?
My question's for Mr. Boyd. You've been around here for a long time. And from what I understand, this is a minor and routine restatement of the easement, in question. For my edification, what's the minor and routine restatement of the easement? What are we gaining or losing here in, the specificity of it?
So there's two easement documents in the agenda. There's two documents. There's one is the 10th Amendment, which is releasing what's in the blanket easement today, which is the yellow portion of property you see there. It's about 4.5 acres immediately east of Ashley Park. That's what's left in the blanket easement of that town center area.
To that point, is that what we know as A2?
Yes.
That is A2.
It's A2, correct.
Okay.
But it's part of A2. It's not all of A2. Or is it all of A2?
It's really what used to be called A2. Yes. The rest of it is called TC.
Town center.
I don't remember the numbers there.
Right.
The rest of it's TC. So that's the first part, is releasing that area from the blanket drainage easement the same way you've done 9 times before with plats that come in. This time it's being done outside of an actual plat. The other thing you're getting here, which typically nothing's being given to the CDD at these times, but prior to the developer, there's questions about when that was released, but the area that's being granted an easement to the CDD is an area the CDD needs an easement over. And
Definitely.
so we're basically asking for what the release of the area there, which is just a remnant of the old blanket easement that served their purpose, but at the same time to grant the CDD an easement over infrastructure that's already existing, gives you the right to maintain it, not the obligation to maintain it.
So I'm still confused. Wasn't this part of the old, you are too?
Well, yeah. I understand what's being done and it's been done before. And I guess there's really no change other than we're lifting it out of a big package and making a specific easement for this piece of property.
But I don't understand why. Why would we go through that?
So the two parts, the release is something that happens routinely so that you can you can't put a home or any building on top of these easements. The blanket easement was created in the beginning because the CDD, to go in and build the ponds and build the roads and build the underground pipes, you needed to access the entire private property. The original developer granted the CDD a blanket easement that covered everything. And every time a development comes in, the easement is modified so that buildings can go on certain pieces of land. That's the release. Here, what you're getting is what had happened is, and I apologize for any confusion I created earlier about this issue when I was still district engineer. The existing pond, I had always understood you still had an easement over it, but it turns out that area was released in the very first amendment that was filed, because the land just immediately west of the town center was platted, even though it was never developed. It was included in a plat. It was called Tract X, and when that happened, it was automatically released from the easement. So that pond needs an easement over it for the CDD. So that's what we're attempting to do today, is to release the easement that is of no consequence and grant you an easement over what is of consequence.
And also across there, again, there's a large pipe underground that runs from that front pond
All the way across.
all the way across to the box. And my understanding, we don't have an easement over that right now either.
That's correct. This was discovered when the title work was done for the new developer.
Yeah.
So that's what it
So
was.
we would have difficulties maintaining our permit status if we don't have these easements.
All right, so that answers that question. Now let me look at we'll go from
Current
the former
engineer.
engineer to the current engineer. I presume I'm certain you've looked at all this and you're okay with everything. There's no detriment to the community here by doing this.
I won't speak legally, but from a maintenance point of view, it's what is needed to properly maintain the pond, pipes, and everything that's within that facility.
Good answer. Thank you. Counsel, you agree?
Have reviewed the documents from the legal point of view, and my concern had to do with the classification of the easement running with the land. It was initially treated as what I would call a more typical easement, where you have two adjacent properties, and this property owner needs to gain access to this other property. What happens there, though, is those easements run with the land, and they're designed for adjacent properties. The district does not own any property around this area, so this is more akin to an easement a utility company would have to maintain power lines. And it inures to the benefit of the holder, that's the CDD, not the benefit of the land, so to speak, since
Right.
the CDD doesn't own that land. So from that standpoint, it was good to address that and get that taken care of.
In effect, it makes us a utility company so we can access our utilities, which is that drainage system under
Manage
the land.
that storm.
Yeah, it makes, it allows, I would say that it allows the district to properly maintain district stormwater infrastructure.
Okay. Side note for the district manager, legal counsel, and the engineer. When Sunterra sold when Sunterra bought from Starwood, there was a true-up agreement done in 2017. Two pieces of that. And it includes A2. There's a $220,000 debt due when A2 gets platted as a result of that true-up agreement. I don't know who owns it, who owes it, but when that A2, and that's why I asked, is that A2? When either M or A2 gets platted, somebody owes $220,000 in debt payment money. And if you go back to 2017, you'll find the documents for that.
Okay. And my understanding is, yeah.
Looking into the federal email chain
Mhm.
about that.
Okay.
So we just need a vote. We don't need
Yeah, we already got a
Right.
motion in a second, right?
resolution.
We have a motion and a second. If I hear no further discussion, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, passes unanimously. Okay, the next item under new business is the audit engagement letter, Burger Tombs, Ellum, Gaines, and Frank for a not to exceed of $4,400.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Unanimous. Move on to the next. C, security of RV vehicles. I had no backup and nobody identified on this one. Is there?
I'm sorry. I'm trying to take
Security.
notes as I'm
Sorry.
saying, so that's why if I'm seeing a little.
We're on security of RV storage.
Yeah, so
Facility.
recently we had somebody tell us about a security issue with the RV parking. And so I just didn't want it to go unaddressed. I just wanted to know what, if there's any plan. I don't know where Gerhard went.
We, yes,
there you
we-
are. Sorry.
we have news on that, Supervisor Castle. As you probably remember from the last meeting, I was appointed liaison to determine what we're gonna do about that fence. Myself, district engineer, and district council have been going back and forth on the most expeditious way of either recovering our money or getting that fence put up. As it turns out, and engineer still has to go back to the county, but we feel that the best thing to do is put up that fence as contracted, which should be okay as it was originally designed. So as I understand it, Mr. Engineer is going to go to the county, make sure we're good to go with that, get it permitted, and then we will bring that contract forward and have straight line fence, put up that fence, which will secure that facility 90%. Now, as the road gets improved and the site plan gets further refined by the county, we're gonna have to move some existing fence, which won't affect what we're doing right now. Some existing fence will have to come closer to the field services area, the trailer, and enclose those Connex boxes that are there. But that'll be a separate piece, and we'll decide what we do for further security at that time, maybe a key card system or whatever. But right now, as soon as Mr. Hamstra can get this permitted, we anticipate asking Straight Line to come in and put up the fence per the contract, and that should clear up that mess.
Great, and they're holding firm on the contract.
Well, we think so at the moment. You know, what are we gonna do? But we needed a plan before we go back to the contractor
Okay,
and say, hey, we want our money back, right?
right, no, we didn't.
That doesn't address it doesn't
the-
address the concerns of the resident who brought this to our attention. So the concerns were that people open that gate and leave it open,
Well,
right? So they come, they leave, they open the gate, they leave the gate open. There's no camera or anything, as we may have in other areas of the community. There's no security for the vehicles that are inside. There may be a gate, but that doesn't mean it's going to be closed.
Well,
So how-
for most of each day, we have field services personnel within 100 feet of that gate, and they can look at it. And if that gate is open, it's pretty easy for a field services guy to go over there, close the gate, put the lock on.
Yeah. If there's going to be vandalism, you think it's going to happen during the day when there are cars right there?
Well, yeah, I understand that, but how far do you go? Even if
No.
you had a camera, you can't see it at night.
There is a camera out there. Gerhard, and this goes back to our security cameras. Is that, it used to be on the light pole there, right at the gate?
Yeah, that's a deer camera.
Motion activated, right?
Yeah, and I tried that, and it only works for a day because there's so much motion there.
Mm-hmm.
It
Fills up.
Yeah, it fills up very quickly. And then you would have to change it out every day. You have to format the card every day.
Okay, is that the one that the sheriff's office reviewed?
No, that was the one that was actually in my trailer. So around CD trailer, there's cameras. However, it only shows how far a vehicle goes in, but it doesn't show what the vehicle does
inside.
Once
the
it gets
RV lot.
inside the RV lot.
I mean, once they're in, who knows what they do.
Mhm.
If you want to have a tight security with cameras, you have to have, first of all, get power there
Mhm.
and have, you could charge it solar power, but then you have to have night vision cameras with motion.
Right.
And even if, then you still don't really know who does, you have a person on camera.
Okay.
That really does.
Here's a suggestion. Short term, we could ask field services to keep that gate closed and locked routinely, because they're there all the time, right? Doesn't fix the nighttime problem. The slightly longer term is, once we get the site plan approved by the county, we're gonna have to redo the gates there anyway. And it's probably gonna be a 10 or 12-foot wide gate, probably gonna need a roller and probably be electrically activated. So we can put in a gate, an automatic gate. We're gonna put one in anyway, right? Probably key code activated. Open the gate, 30 seconds, the gate closes behind. When whoever went in wants to come out, slide a key card again to get out. Now you're gonna know who's
That's what
going
I'm
in,
asking
who's
for.
coming out. And I mean, we're gonna put a gate anyway.
Okay.
It's just a matter of a slightly fancier gate that closes.
And then we know, yeah, then
And
we,
that does it.
yeah.
And if there's power for that, then camera could also
Put a
be
camera up
added. It's
there,
close enough
exactly
to
right.
do recording inside the CDD trailer. That all can
And
happen.
if I remember right, where that gate's gonna go, there is power pretty close.
It's right there.
It's already there for the Connex. So we don't have to run a power wire to run the gate and a camera.
Okay, so this will be included in the site planning and the future fence installation.
Mr. Hampshire has caught all this?
Okay,
That's an angel on this one.
wonderful.
There's
Okay.
two parts of this. We're gonna do the straight line fence as quickly as possible to secure the site.
Yes.
We're doing a long-term site plan improvements, and I'm working with Gerhard and Brett on vehicle parking, vehicle movements, whether we put some minimal electricity out there, and we'll get with a fancy gate so it closes within 30 seconds.
Yes. The site plan that Mr.
Okay.
Boyd did initially should show the new line of where that gate's intended to go. And the county wanted a 10-foot landscape area in front of it.
Mhm.
So we hadn't planned on what kind of gate we're gonna put in at that time. We're thinking swinging gates, but those are impractical for this reason. So we're gonna put a gate there and put it on a roller and just in and out.
Will a rolling gate work consistently well over time on top of concrete fines?
We may have to put a concrete strip
Mhm.
where the wheels
That
are.
it'll
so
Right.
they can get rotted out.
Okay,
You may still have somebody who is impatient, they get it or bump it because they want to get out sooner than, but we'll do the best. Robust.
okay, great. So, district engineer, you're on your way.
You're welcome.
Okay. Item D, discussion of sidewalk pressure washing.
Yes, this is also me. These are all from resident requests. That's why I'm bringing them forward. So we used to be doing regular sidewalk washing. And I don't know if we still are. There are areas that apparently are quite black and slippery when wet. Are we still doing sidewalk pressure washing?
Yes, we did last week and this week we actually, the pressure washer was broke, so it was stopped. But it's, they're working on now, the lakes, East Five Oaks, where the most black spots were, are actually finalized today on this side. There were black spots and we're working on it today or this week. But we're doing the boulevards, the boardwalks, so this is going to be.
And
Okay.
didn't we at one point vote to add even the sidewalk, the neighborhood sidewalks?
The pressure washing.
No,
Yeah,
this is
pressure washing
yeah,
of all
it's
the
underway.
sidewalks,
Yeah.
of all the CDD sidewalks.
Right.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah, that's what I mean, all CDD sidewalks.
Right, that's underway. Okay, any other questions concerning sidewalk pressure wash?
No.
Okay, we're moving on. Discussion of security rules and enforcement for the dog park.
Yes, so building on what Ms. Toby presented earlier, we have boats and we have pools and we have some kind of enforcement. We have enforced our rules in those locations in the past, whether it's if somebody brings alcohol on a boat, they may get their privileges revoked for a period of time. And if they repeat offenders, they could permanently have their privileges revoked. Same with the pools. If there are repeated violations, they can have their privileges revoked. Why shouldn't we do that with the dog parks?
Well, the problem with the dog park, the delineating difference is because we have key card access to those locations, we have that enforcement option, but the parks are public. I mean, anybody can use them.
Well, except for the fact they have a fence around them.
They do have a
right.
fence, but they're not.
We cannot, what is the word?
Restrict, not, we can not restrict, we
regulate,
can
not
regulate.
restrict.
Uh-huh.
So we can go ahead and add key card access.
Well, that I inquired from Gerhard about that. That's a very expensive proposition.
Ooh,
Yeah, I
yeah.
had PM visit the site, and a rough estimate will be $30,000. Because there has to be trenching done from all the way from the back also to the pavilion. So the pavilion's going to be the central point. All the gates will have magnets. You know, not magnets, they all need power. So we are dealing with Wi-Fi for the card recognition for the readers. However, the magnets need power. So that then comes
Okay.
trenching in and then comes the electrician.
I have a question. So we now have a new dog park.
Yes, so, and
It's
is that
being final,
$30,000
but-
for all the dog parks or just
but-
one?
Just that one. Let me ask you, we've got 2 entry boxes for each of the
Dog
2
parks, that's right.
parks there.
So we have total of 6.
So we've already secured the maintenance gates. That's not costing us anything. Do we have to keep both boxes on both sections of that dog park open? Can we chain off and lock one of them and only put the key card access at the ones closest to the pavilion? And would that significantly drop that cost? Because we don't have trenching, that extensive of trenching.
I don't know that people are going to be happy coming in all the way from Schoolhouse Road to the entry. I mean, it's a good 600 feet at least, maybe
It's a
800
good walk
feet.
Going all the way around.
But you're walking. I do it all the time. and
There's
I
that amount of
never
people-
use
There's
that.
X amount of people who
back
drive their car over.
All right, we
Is
have
it
a lot
close
of
to the
people
gate?
here. What do you think? I mean, is it,
I heard mention. I thought someone stated that it's a public park.
well, it's all CDD property is public, but we
then.
can,
Totally public.
we can regulate access, but we can't restrict access.
Okay, so it says access to the dog park is limited to Harmony residents, guests, and annual pass holders.
That's not true. I mean,
That's not
Well, it
really-
is, it is, but there's no enforcement.
But there's no enforcement without the
Be-
gate key card.
it's true, but
It's-
there's, like she said, there's no enforcement.
If we just need the key card access. That's
If we had the
thing
key
that
card
makes the
access,
difference.
then we would, yeah, then we could do that.
And that's why we're talking.
But a
about the
question
key
for
card
me
access.
is, essentially all of this has come up because of one particular owner.
That was
Right?
my thing.
And
Yeah.
so to spend even $15,000 to protect the dog parks because of one particular owner seems excessive. But then we're also thinking longer term about, I mean, there are times where we have people from here, there and everywhere, especially
But
during the
but then
holidays,
again,
come to the
even
dog
all
park.
this stuff that we're discussing, even if that were in place, that wouldn't necessarily have
Keep 'em out.
prevented that. incident.
No,
So
but it wouldn't have prevented the incident, but we could
You could have
revoke his
recourse.
You
privileges.
can
yes.
enforce.
But
right.
after the fact, I don't, I mean, it's a tough spot to be
Okay.
in because
It really is.
I hate, I I hate to draw this out more, but the 30,000 is a huge hit. But if you would consider closing off 2 of the entry boxes, consolidating those 2, putting key cards on those, we could have Gerhard go back and get a revised estimate and deal with this at the next
Well,
meeting.
let's find out what it costs and then we can table the ongoing
Yeah,
discussion to
it's
the
not
next
gonna cut
meeting.
it in half, because some of your problem is the basic infrastructure. You'll take
Yes.
off some of the ditching, but
Well, that ditching is really expensive in running it that far. So let's just see what that cost is. Yeah. Yes. Sir.
I've seen dog parks that are also divided in half, where it's small dogs on one side, large dogs on the other. That you have that capability, even with the new dog parks, that you have 2 boxes to enter, where potentially we could do a change order to add a fence dividing.
But then we'd still pay the more because we'd have
Right.
2 access
And we
gates.
couldn't enforce against a dangerous dog.
I understand, I was just making a point where maybe
Yeah.
separate smaller dogs stay in one side of it. large dogs
well,
on the other.
to your point,
Not that large dogs.
Right,
to
exactly.
your point, you already have 2 parks. One's a
Yeah.
small dog park, one's a large dog park.
Well, but that's more been about the size of the park than the dog.
I understand.
But we could do
All
that
right.
without adding another fence if we wanted to designate the smaller one for small dogs but
Well,
I
the-
don't know that that
That's
would
not
have resolved
practical.
the
It's not
problem.
practical anyway. If you go to
Right.
if you go to the small dog park with a small dog
Mhm.
and there's another small dog in there, you don't know, and you don't
If they're
feel,
gonna be
comes
aggressive.
barking at your dog at the gate, you're going to want to go to the big dog park if nobody's in there, and vice versa. If somebody's in the big dog park with a big dog, you have a big dog, but you don't like what that dog
Yeah.
looks like, you want to go in the small park. So it's impractical.
I think
All
the
I know is
only-
I've been here for 11 years now, and I have heard of a few minor incidences, but they're not reoccurring. They're one-offs. But this one seems to be
Recurring,
reoccurring.
yes.
It's
But he has
It's a
not been
civil-
coming to the dog park with his dogs.
he what?
He has not again been coming.
I-
After
I-
a day
yeah,
or 2,
I
he
know,
has not
but
been coming.
does-
I
yeah, how long
spoke with
does?
him today and he's
Oh, really?
Yes, he specifically stated that he did not want his access to the dog park and that was a priority for him. He wants to continue.
Well, that
coming to the
that
dog
brings me to my second point about the dog park and access, which is I guess we can go over this now, David. I had requested, and this is what Kim was talking about with the green, yellow, red, that I had talked about this many years ago. You'll remember, Steve, I talked about this sort of a flag system where people, when they bring their dog in, they could indicate whether the dog is friendly with all dogs or, friendly with some dogs, but not all dogs, or, enter at your own risk because this is not a dog that gets along with other dogs. And I asked David to see what he could come up with regarding such a system.
I'll be honest, I asked some of my coworkers, who are dog walkers, all boils down to human behavior.
Of course.
I have found that I have a dog, German Shepherd, and my coworkers all have dogs. And the people who seem to have an aggressive dog don't think their dog's aggressive, they don't take ownership of it. And so to ask them to be honest, and flip the tab or do something, I think it's gonna break down, and I'm just being honest. I like the card better if there's a cheaper way to get it, because it's restricted if there's another event. Right. But I think the other thing just falls back on this lousy behavior about how they treat themselves, their dogs.
This is
that's
not a
impossible to
dog park
regulate.
problem. It's not a dog problem.
It's not a security
This is
problem.
People problem.
Okay.
One person in particular.
Okay, let's.
Okay, I think we're
let's
good
stay
for
off
now. We're
that.
going to have Gerhard get
Right.
an estimate for 3 gates instead of 6 gates, right?
Right.
Okay.
But he may be restricted. When will he be restricted? Will he ever be? Will the dog have to be deemed aggressive by animal services?
No, we have our rules and the rules will be enforced and the enforcement will be cutting off the privileges for that particular pass holder whose animal violates.
So we haven't done anything about that, though.
Right, we can move, we will deal with
So-
that once we find out if we're even going down that path
Okay.
next month.
Okay. So, but however, what we could do was we could vote. I mean, we could,
Do we have a motion?
Well, no,
Oh.
let me just say, we could say that we want to revoke that person's privileges for a period of time or permanently because of the past behavior of the dogs and the owner. And even though we don't have the enforcement of the key cards, we still have that revocation in place. We can't enforce
true.
it, but we have the revocation in place.
We need to address that anyways at some point in the future, right? Even when we get the key cards in place,
Exactly.
we need to. Yeah, so
Exactly.
we can-
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we could tonight decide that we want to revoke this person's privileges for a period of time. You want me to make a motion? Is that what
If
you're
you
asking
would-
for?
If you would like to, that would be.
Before I do that, I'd like to hear from other board members about the period of time of revocation. Do we make it
Is this
6
all-
months? Do we make
all
it
parks?
permanent? All dog parks.
All dog,
How do you revoke his privilege?
you just say you do?
We don't have enforcement yet with the key card system.
But you can send them a letter and say, you
Right.
have broken these particular, our dog park, and you're putting you on X amount.
And I spoke to him today and he said that he had mentioned that both of his dogs, neither dog, he states, has attacked twice, which is required by statute to be declared a dangerous dog. But he did admit.
We got,
Wait.
He's attacked, one of his dogs
Stop.
attacked my dog.
Okay. He did state that each of his 2 dogs have attacked. So be that what it may, he's got 2 dogs that have violated our code. And so I have a motion on the table.
Well, the motion isn't clear yet because I would like some feedback from the board members about the length of time of this revocation.
Permanent.
I would say permanent with these particular dogs.
So moved.
Council's about to weigh
Oh,
in.
yeah, okay. Revoke my, my motion.
I'll try to explain this. So what the CD does is maintains the infrastructure, the fences, the facilities, okay? The CDD falls under the jurisdiction of the county when it comes to regulating the behavior. So if you make your motion to revoke subject to conferring with the county jurisdiction and animal control and legal review, then we can figure out the best way to do it. But we will want to coordinate with the county because the county has the jurisdiction.
So moved, but we still, well, actually, but for the period of time. Are we still saying permanent? Can we do permanent or can we not?
Subject to review.
Okay, permanent subject to review. So moved. Thank you.
Do I hear a
It's-
second? I have a motion
you
on
have
the floor.
anything? Steve looks like he has something.
You were the
my-
one who said
Second to
permanent.
discuss. So if somebody will discuss for discussion, second for
I
discussion.
don't want to
purpose,
second it right now because I'm discussing, so.
What did you say?
I will second it for discussion. purposes.
To revoke the privileges permanently subject to the county and legal review.
So my concern is then what does he do?
With these
And I don't
dogs.
care what he does. That's not my concern. My concern is whatever he does that cause even more problems?
Yeah, we're putting in a rule that we have no enforcement on. Zero. That's the
Besides
problem.
that, then, but what does he do with his dogs?
He lives in the,
I get that. I, yes, he can do that.
All right.
Excuse
all right.
me.
Clearly
need
a
to-
hot topic.
He can do that. I don't care if he ever walks his dogs. That's my concern is not with him or his dogs. My concern is what problem does that create for other residents and their animals if he's not able to have his dog, if he's in the dog park and his dogs are the only ones there, they can't possibly harm anybody else's dogs. It's only if there's another dog there. If he's walking his dogs and comes in contact with another dog that's still on a leash, what happens?
Well, it's
the
his
county to enforce that.
responsibilities.
I get that does the county to enforce it, but
He does.
I know that.
okay,
That's-
I need
w-
to,
But we're not law enforcement. We're not civil authorities.
okay,
I
I need to
understand.
call the meeting to order. basically, we can't control what happens when somebody's walking down the street with their dog on a leash. We can control our property. We can control access to our property. And that's what we've got before us at this time. So
So could he be, Mr. Attorney? Could somebody, there are signs posted at the dog parks. If there's a disturbance, please call the sheriff's office. If we send him a letter saying that his privileges are revoked with these dogs at the dog parks, and that if he enters the dog parks, he will be trespassing, then we can ask the sheriff to enforce.
yes, we can. It's in our
Let me just read what
rules.
the statute says. We're all playing by the same rules. So you guys have the ability to operate your facilities for parks and recreation and to adopt and enforce appropriate rules in connection with doing so. But then it goes on to expressly state you do not have police power. So this is a question of what kind of rules can you have to regulate your infrastructure, okay, that doesn't get over into the police power. And when you're taking somebody's liberties away, that tends to get closer to that. So your motion to address this, subject to the controlling authorities, I think is the best way to go. And then you'll get some guidance. But see, the rules for the pools are when you can access it, how you behave there. If there's a violation there, you need to enforce that. You need to enforce it consistently. And I don't know that your rules now address what the penalties are. I would be real hesitant to just revoke it forever. And then you certainly want to give the gentleman an ability to come to a meeting and address the subject as well. Because he has that right under the rules.
That's pretty typical. If your rights get revoked, you have to come to a board meeting and approach the board to get them back.
So where does that leave us?
Well, your motion was okay because council says, subject to further review with the appropriate authorities, which means sheriff's office and probably going to be animal control.
And then how does he get to address that with us?
He requests a hearing before the board.
We would, in our letter to him, we would remind him of your existing rule that a decision is made affecting his substantial interest. He has the right to request a hearing within X number of days.
Right.
Do I have a second?
We do. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing no opposition, motion passes. All right. Next item on the agenda, review of flat fee for legal services. Oh, and on that last one, if you can get the estimates for our next meeting.
Do we think solar is an option for the power requirements for that lock? Is that something that solar and a battery versus trenching?
Yeah, but it's
At least.
probably more costly.
Okay. Okay.
So,
Now the distance is shorter. If the distance is shorter,
Right.
you don't need to do it much.
Okay.
Then you're pretty good.
right, so,
Like for the existing dog park, for the new dog park, would you like to implement that too? The thing that goes out another box.
yeah, it's a brand new box.
There's no power.
Well, let's find out what it'll cost.
Yeah, come up with, look at a variety of, yeah, okay. Okay, review of flat fee for legal services. Again, we had instituted a flat fee for legal services in the past. We can take this up now. We've got a lot of reports. We can table this till the next meeting and go over it then.
Well, to
Any
review it, saves you money,
objections?
without a doubt.
Okay, we'll go further over it in the next meeting. Staff reports, so we'll table it till next meeting. Staff reports, district engineer. Sorry to put
For
you,
those in the audience who don't want to hear about all the engineering, you're welcome to leave.
we'll bring you up here. It's quite a long list, but
I'll go through it quickly. It'll get long nights.
For the camera.
The estates. Thank you, Gerhard, for your staff going out there. Some of those inlets were under, actually literally 2 feet or 18 inches below the dirt. It
Wow.
never worked. So within the estates, there are 12 inlets outside the right of way in people's rear yards. So when they develop the estates, they allow the lots to be filled, and then the open space behind their lots to remain wooded but unfortunately, some of these inlets now that we have gotten cleaned, measured the water levels, when the ponds fill up to their normal water level, will literally back up and flood some of these lower areas. And I will tell you, I've never in my life seen mosquitoes so aggressive and nasty back there. And so we got to figure out a way to drain those low areas. And I don't want to put pumps everywhere because it's not practical, but it's a bad situation. And as we keep pushing more and more houses being built, we're going to lose more storage and maybe have the water stage higher. And so at a minimum, I'm going to write a letter to the county on, there's 3 pipes identified that I think are full of dirt. When Gerhard's staff unearthed the 12 inlets, 3 of them are packed solid with dirt, and there's no way they're going to work. I'm sure whatever dirt is in there is in the 12-inch pipes. We need to get blown out. So I'll do a memo to your guys and a separate one to the county, because the county will do the right of way. They're not going to go beyond the right of way for maintenance. We may have to get a back truck or something to clean those pipes. So we know the cause, the culprit. I'm not quite sure how we can practically fix it yet. I know Mr. and Mrs. I think it's Gerhard.
No, Gable.
Have been very patient, and they've allowed me back there several times to look what's going on. I appreciate Gerhard telling the home builder right away, and they put the cell fences up to protect the inlets that we've already exposed. But it's a slight design issue. We just got to figure out a practical way to fix those problems so those homeowners don't have to deal with water backing up for prolonged periods of time in a very aggressive mosquito environment. So.
And yeah, we did get mosquito control out there. They understand they've done a larval count and hopefully they're treating. So
It's bad.
we'll keep on top of them to help us out with that.
I was out there with the county today with the sewer truck, and they were sucking up some of the storm drains.
Okay, good.
And heavy accumulation of pine needles. That's what's clogging, because, when you use a sewer truck, you can see what goes into the truck. But a greater concern, they found some of the storm inlets with concrete debris down in.
Fines, probably.
No, chunks.
Oh.
Up where they-
Somebody's washing out in our storm drains.
Yeah, and throwing junk concrete down there, and they had to work to get those out. Of course, the job ended today because it started to rain.
Mhm.
But the county is diligently working, and they're finding stuff in the storm drains. Concrete that shouldn't be there. So people are dumping stuff there.
Yeah,
But the pine needles are a real problem.
Okay.
They're disintegrated. The
And
pine
they're going
needles.
into the ones that up the right away where they're staying in the woods. So.
right. Cherry
right.
Hill?
Cherry Hill, we've got a survey proposal. The survey 3170 was the culprit, and there's 2 neighbors on both sides. I will tell you, when I look at the Steve Boyd construction plans, swales were not intended back there in the first place. They were supposed to build a house and then slope the rear yard to match the top of the bank of the pond. But for some reason, the house, the yards went down, and there's a swale in between. That wasn't by design, but that's what exists today. So I got a surveyor for Johnson Surveying. Sorry, Teresa, I can get a second proposal in time, but it's $1,200, which I think is very practical.
Okay,
To survey
that's,
3
yeah,
lots,
that's
to do a drawing that I can use. I need to give to Angel, Gerhard, and Brett to solicit a contractor to do grading, the sodding, and fixing. So with your permission, if the board would consider a $1,200 authorization to get Johnson Engineering to survey those 3 rear lots so we can properly grade them, locate the property corners, so whoever does do the work is not encouraging on private property, and the work is actually done in the CBD open space.
Is this to eliminate the swale and just let it all be sloping?
No, it's to fix the gentleman at 3170 that built his pool really close to the swale, and the one to the east or north or south where the water keeps ponding when it rains.
So though the swale wasn't part of the original design, we're going to keep it.
Yeah,
he built
because
it
it's-
quite a bit. Yeah, I don't want to fill every lot. It'd be too expensive. So.
Okay.
So before I move
okay.
forward-
Any objection to the Johnston surveying getting started?
Do we
this?
need to do a board approval? Yeah, so I move to approve the $1,200 survey by Johnston.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All
Now,
opposed?
this is all on,
Hearing none,
this is
approved.
all on the homeowner's account, right?
Yep. He's going to pay for all those things. All right, House Bill 53, I think I'm gonna ignore it for now because we're really got a lot on the agenda, but it basically says by June of next year, we have to inventory and tell the government how we're gonna take care of our infrastructure, the condition of it, and anything that's gonna be done. The memo that I gave you that's in there was well written by a firm that bumped this up to another CDD. And I'm just informing all the CDs and every city and county is going through this. We have to inventory their stormwater, their sewer and their water, and report to the government about what they're gonna do to keep it up and all that.
Are we gonna have to scope our system and do a
I don't think so.
full
They're here. I think
evaluation?
They want an inventory at this
They just
point,
want the
so we have a pretty
inventory
good one
right
for
now?
each prior work, so.
Okay, great.
Footbridges, I'll leave the Gerhard. I think we're done. You may be going back and forth on some punch list items, but I think the footbridge is done as far as I know.
That was only the whole sentence needed to be filled in.
So there's minor things the contractor's taking care of.
To that point, when we did the change order, there was some commentary about sealing. And I presume that meant sealing.
It is in there. If you touch it, you feel it's not concrete, that they've put that, it's almost like a caulking,
Yeah.
and you touch it and it's soft, but that's the
surface of the concrete
sealant.
Between the joints.
Between the joints, between the
Underneath it, we had a
panels.
pump route, which he had to do it twice because the first time it wasn't done
Mhm.
properly. He took ownership to it, broke it all out, did it again. And I got some probes and they actually did fill the voids that went quite a bit back underneath the concrete slabs.
What I'm talking about is where
Right.
the approach pad comes in and it's on an angle and it kind of meets the structure of the bridge. So they're both on a V, but I didn't see any sealant in that joint.
No, these are the joints between two concrete panels. There's a panel that the garbage cans sit on, and then there's the panel to the approach for the footbridge. That sealant went between those two concrete panels.
Between the trash can and when you approach
Right.
the bridge, it was about a half to 3/4 of an inch.
Mhm.
And that's got filled in with a semi.
Pliable sealant.
I'll look a little more carefully.
Okay.
You gotta touch
Dog
it.
park we talked about. 5 Oaks Drive crosswalk is done. The county put the proper sign
Mhm.
your mid-block crossing, so that's in good shape. Village Trail, Dan, I'll give it to you afterwards. I'll just show you what I found.
Okay.
Sidewalk maintenance, Gerhard, I have your final sidewalk exhibits, and I got a digital file to give you as well. We have a CDD wide overall map, and then we got it in the 4 quadrants or sectors, whatever you want to call it. So you got an overall, and then the 4 sectors, full size, and I got the digital over to you. So,
Audit is made for quadrant 1.
I need those.
okay, I'll give you the digital then. I'll give Gerhard the paper copy. And we also got a spreadsheet for every sector. It's got the width, the length, so now you can start doing quantity takeoffs and things like that. Includes the ramps. Thanks for everybody's input about what is CDD, what's not CDD. It's all color coded now based on width, so hopefully it'll be very helpful for Gerhard's sidewalk maintenance program moving forward, so. We're almost done. 5 Oaks Drive sidewalk repairs. You probably saw my email to Aero Pavement, basically saying you didn't ask for permission, you took it upon yourself to go thicker than you should have. He responded by saying, can you at least meet me halfway? Because my proposal says 4 inches and allows me some adjustments for thicker product, but he went from 4 to 7 or 8. I didn't respond to him because I'm still standing that we don't own the change order, but if you guys have any desire to give him something.
No, I checked with our legal counsel. I reviewed the contract. Basically, when he accepted that final payment check, we're done.
That's that.
All right, we're done.
Yep.
We talked about the RV parking lot already, and
Mhm.
then Steve Boyd gave me the easement documents to be signed before. Thank you very much.
And the reserve study?
If you need anything more to do, are you busy?
I can ask for more bump, no, I'm just kidding.
If you need any more, you seem like a pretty busy guy.
He's taking care of us.
When can we expect the reserve study?
The
Do you think?
reserve Study should be coming out.
Probably about a
fairly
month. It'll be about a month or 2. He's
Okay.
putting everything together. It'll probably be quicker than that, but that's kind of what.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
Christmas present.
It's going to be a pretty
All
scary
right.
Christmas present.
So, stand here, so I'm not.
Thank you guys for coming.
Is yours long too? Is yours long too?
No, mine is all
The
submitted.
microphone has to hear you, Tim. You have to be up
Yeah,
here.
you've got to come up.
Oh,
Sorry.
All right, no worries.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, so, good evening. I think if you have any questions on items 1, 2, 3, and 4, those don't require any action by the board. So I'll start with the items that may require action. One is the change order policy. We updated your procurement.
Okay.
policy today.
Yeah.
What? Why are you?
Well, he just added a line at the bottom of the change order policy. It can't go there.
It could go, yeah, well, you guys can adopt it subject to putting it.
That's
wherever you
fine,
want,
but
or you
we-
don't have to adopt it.
Right. We just need to make sure we know it does not just apply to contracts over $5,000. It
Right.
applies to all,
Yes,
any
yeah.
contract. So we need to just move it up to the requirements for all procurement section.
Okay.
So,
So we'll move that, and then if you want to adopt that, subject to that change, I think you'd want to make a motion just to make it clear on the
Right.
record.
do I hear a motion?
Do we have the motion? Can you state the motion for us,
The
for
motion
somebody
would
to?
be to approve the change to your procurement policy in order to allow for some instances of approval of a change order without it having to come before the board, either $5,000 or 10%, whichever is less. So it's a limited approval, but it avoids having to come back to the entire board for minor change orders.
So moved. So seconded.
And that language would go up to the requirements for all.
The next item that would require,
Second,
I'm sorry.
No, he moved, I seconded.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes.
Item 7 also would require action if the board is so inclined, which is you have in your agenda packet a resolution. That resolution states that the district has the ability to contract with a tow company under Florida law to tow improperly parked vehicles. Those are vehicles that are parked at a facility where the owner of the vehicle is not actively utilizing the facility. Any questions? Happy to address.
What
Okay.
constitutes a facility?
What?
This
It's,
is-
Facility is broadly defined, but it's your parks and
Right.
recreation, but it's much broader than that.
Okay.
actually.
Yeah,
so if
any
somebody leaves
facility.
a vehicle there for
Right.
long periods of time, we can have it removed.
Yeah.
And it's written in a way such that we can use it in the future if we designate, specific parking. Say if we say staff parking only at the staff trailer, we can do that. So it's not just recreational facilities. And then we'll be able to, with the new development that's proposed, we're going to have some serious parking problems and
Mhm.
better to get ahead of it.
Sure.
And to finally, did the PT Cruiser ever leave? Okay,
I can't,
So-
I can't find this in the agenda right now. So is there a resolution number?
Yes, ma'am. Well, I don't know if it's numbered.
it's on page 359 of the agenda,
All right, I'm trying to,
under the
If you get to
attorney's
the
business.
General counsel report, it has internal links. You can just click on.
Okay, so I have a motion. Do I hear a second? Oh,
no, we
I'm
needed we needed a resolution number to make, to do that. It's not on 315.
it'll be numbered after it's,
Okay, so moved.
so this is the parking.
So moved, seconded, voted.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The
All
parking,
opposed?
The parking.
This is what, for the parking?
the
Right,
parking, the
towing.
towing.
Tow policy, which you've really had all this time because your sign said so, but we didn't do it legally. And so now we'll be able to enforce it. All right.
Thank you.
So unless there's other questions, I mean, I'm happy to cover these other items, but it's a detailed report there in front of you. So those are the items I see that would require action.
Action.
On the towing, we do have a little bit, we've got to work. There is some language in the statute that says you can go ahead and you don't have to do public bidding for the tow company as long as they're on a list approved by the county. The county ordinance does reference a rotational towing list. So we're just conferring with the one company that responded to make sure they're on that rotational list.
Okay, so we expect to be implementing it right away. And we're
Assuming
already,
The law is complied with, yes.
Are we also implementing the temporary access easement agreement?
We
That's-
voted on that last time. It was subject to your,
No, it was approved. I'm just asking if it's being implemented.
Oh.
So
got it.
that's all. I just want to reiterate. All right.
But we do have the tree policy.
The tree trimming policy, that the policy that was proposed and in the agenda package, I think goes way more far afield. I really don't
12
want to get a permit to
pages?
pull my weeds. So we are stepping
Sorry.
back from that.
I'm not sorry. I like less is more. I'd rather you tell me to cut stuff out.
Yeah, we're,
And it's also so legalese, like this
Yeah,
is a
it's-
policy that our residents are gonna have to follow and they're gonna have to understand. It's gotta be in lay language.
we're not doing it. We're throwing it out. We're going to contract to take care of our trees and then it'll be done. Does that make sense?
Well,
Yeah, but the policy is a message to the homeowners to say, you can't trim your trees, we're gonna trim your trees, and if you trim your trees, you're gonna be
Okay, we
liable for
will make
damages.
a quick policy that says just that.
If we're working for that, we're working with Brett,
Mhm.
arborist, to get us the specifics of the Harmony Tree Maintenance Program. Look, I asked all of the local government attorneys for an example of a policy. That's the one that we tracked down from Sanford. So
That they never adopted because it was too complicated.
we don't know why they didn't adopt it, but I don't know what you want me to do. I can policy you tell me to put.
So anyway, we will be working on this in the future. How's that?
We
Okay.
agree it needs to be trimmed.
There we go.
Exactly.
I like it, Dan.
Well played, sir.
Yeah.
Lawyer to write a policy, it's not done legally.
All right.
Lawyers can argue it legally.
Filing of claim for Harmony Retail versus Steve Ruby, that's been filed. You provided the information. Okay, and so
So
that's been
what's, I'm
filed.
sorry,
Have we-
what's the update?
There isn't any. They're still considering it.
When you say they're still, who is still considering
The
what?
insurance company.
Oh, okay.
We've turned it over to the insurance, or filed a claim. Our district manager filed a claim with our insurance company. They are reviewing it. Because it's fairly far into it, they have a lot to review, and they will be getting back with us hopefully before the next meeting.
The only other thing, just to be thinking about is on the extremely generous offer of First Nature Ranch, the Ethics Commission rendered an informal opinion. So you may want to plan for space that's not there for your short-term planning.
Okay.
And I am working with Supervisor Castle to get some further clarification.
We got an informal opinion that says that even though I don't accept any money from the foundation and I don't accept any money from the CDD board, that, and I'm giving the, I have a stated policy of how much I charge, and I'm giving the use for less, that I still have a conflict of interest because I'm a board member of both organizations.
You have one conflict of interest, but on the other side, you're not. It's crazy. when you
It-
I know,
It's-
but the conflict they
but
say I
it's-
have is just like, but
Yeah.
I'm not getting any
Well-
compensation from anybody. So how is it really a conflict of interest?
But you're making a decision of how to spend the board's money, and that money goes
Something
to
you're
something you're attached to.
Right.
So that's.
So I
the
don't
reason-
want to take that chance. And so we're
Right.
requesting a formal opinion.
Okay.
If there were no money being exchanged, would it then be an issue?
Just on this particular statute, yes. It just simply says you may not do business with your own agency.
You're not doing business, there's no money.
Well, this depends how you define business. And there is money, it's just reduced.
No. zero
No.
money.
No, he's
What-
asking if I don't charge.
I'm talking about the cost that the CDD would pay to first.
No.
No,
What
he's,
if we don't
There was
pay?
no charge.
Oh,
he's trying to get it for free.
I still think they would flag that particular section, but here's the way this works. I'll sit down. I know those attorneys over there. I know the executive director. We'll talk it through. What they have to do, okay, is they have to tell you if on its face, it would be violative of that one statute. And the answer to that is yes, but there's a litany of statutes that play here. And remember, the staff attorneys don't make the decision at the end of the day of whether there's an ethics violation. It's the members
The big-
of the
yeah.
commission. And so what they're trying to do is make sure that all these things are considered. But
Now, I have a question, which kind of goes along with Commissioner, Supervisor Castle very generously forgoes her monthly payment
Yes, I do.
from the CD.
I have for my entire 4 terms
exactly.
so far.
But if at any time she can choose to accept that money, and then she can choose totally separate of anything else to make that money, to donate that money.
But it's still an ethical violation because we're still, no,
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 we
because
wouldn't
we're
be
still
paying her.
doing, we're still have a contract to meet at the
Oh, okay, and
ranch.
you would have obligations.
It's just the statute as succinctly as I can put it, says you may
Mhm.
not do business with your own neighbor.
There's no exchange of money or goods. It cannot be business.
Yeah, because that statute doesn't, no. I
No,
disagree
it
with
is
that.
still
It can't be.
Statute,
You have to exchange something for
Well,
it to be
Service
business.
being provided, the use of the facility
Yeah,
instead of a good.
right. But there's no
There's no
exchange.
So I want to be kind here, and I know you all are experts on wide.
But not this.
For somebody to say, with this set of facts, will you be able to go in front of those 7 do-gooders and not, and escape unscathed? You gotta flag this issue.
Yeah,
You
you-
gotta address it. Does that mean that it's flat out a problem? No, I've dealt with this with other clients where they say, look, you don't check your First Amendment rights at the door. You just gotta, there's a totality
Totality of the circumstances.
that has to be considered.
Right. So we will
So
leave this for now.
Get the totality considered and let us know what happens.
Yes,
Right.
that's what we're doing. So, thank you.
Okay,
I suspect the one I'm hearing.
we are moving on.
Supervisor Castle cannot be nice and tell us, just come on over. It's
Well,
not gonna work either.
We
It
are,
can't.
Different set of facts, but because in our set of facts, we just said it would be at a reduced rate.
Mhm.
And that could be very valid, but here's the thing. We want to get the commission to opine in advance, and that way, if we get the right answer and somebody.
Then you're
filed a
safe and there's no
complaint, which is
problem.
All it takes for any public official, all it takes is for somebody to.
Whether it
file
has merit or not.
Right.
Generally, the ones I've seen don't, but it still goes through the process. If somebody alleges a violation, they're still gonna investigate it. It's gonna take 6 months and it's gonna be a pain. So it's better just to get these answers up front.
All right, we're,
Side note on that subject, we only got 2 months here after this one. Oh, no?
No, it's indefinite.
We've
We
got as long as
accepted, we
we-
approved moving here for 3 months.
Board wanted me to look into it, but no, there is no.
Yeah, clearly for this particular meeting, it was quite cramped,
but I
but
think we'll,
we had a lot of
I
people
don't
here.
think this will be the usual. Anything further? Can I run you off the stage?
Please run me off the stage before I get.
Bye. All right,
You need more to do, Council?
No.
field manager.
All right, here's the quick guy again. What are any concerns? You get my weekly reports. Concerns, questions about that? Then I want to request the HROA events. I'm not going as well as that. I anticipated at the end of the event, no cleanup is arranged by the organizer, and I would really like to have that arranged by the organizer. Now, CDD or if Mark is picking it up, and it's quite a mess. So, Mark, can we
I- I would think, because we don't have any exclusion in our rules, that they should put down a deposit like anybody else. And if they don't clean up, then we should,
Well, we have not required that in the past, but
The
right, but it's.
president of the HROA is here. You
Mhm.
know the lady who's putting on the events? It's a simple question of making sure that she knows she got to clean up, and I guarantee you she will.
Yeah, if she has a deposit down, there will be definite.
well, that will
incentive.
have to be a decision on the part of the board as to
Right.
whether we require, this board,
Mhm.
as to whether we require a deposit on HROA events. That's not up to the HROA. That's up
That's-
to this
That's
board.
correct, but I'm just saying, if this board chooses, well, right now it's in our rules and requirements that we do charge a deposit.
But we have
right?
not done so for the HROA board.
Yeah, I'm not sure why that's,
Because it's for residents, it's not for,
That's the
Right,
issue.
but
I understand, but it's just a deposit. It's not a charge. We'll be
Right.
providing that back to them
And going forward, I mean, based on what we're hearing, maybe there's cause for, beginning to do that.
Right.
I'm gonna tell you, if you just ask Jen to make sure she hires cleanup people after the event to clean it up, otherwise she's gonna get charged for it, she'll do it. She got the budget to do it. It's that simple. Rather, I understand. But we've never brought it up to her as far as I
Right.
know.
Well, I'll move that we go ahead and charge the deposit. They can put a deposit for all the ongoing events. It just sits there or hold a check or whatever. And then that will just ensure that there's incentive to get it cleaned up.
Well, but what, doesn't the deposit come from the HRA?
Mhm.
Yeah, it's all resident.
I don't know that.
So we have a motion. We would need a second in order to have a discussion.
I've made a motion. Is there a second for them to provide us with a check for 250? Won't be cashed, but will be held in case there's an issue.
And if it's not cleaned up and Gerhard verifies that, our policy would be to notify them to say, it wasn't cleaned up, your deposit's going to be.
Unless you get out there and clean it.
We wouldn't just arbitrarily.
I'll second.
Okay. I've got a
But
motion and a
it
second.
doesn't.
Okay,
it
now
doesn't-
discussion.
It doesn't incentivize I love Jennifer. It doesn't incentivize her to do anything because the money,
It's going to lose it out of her budget.
$250.
So
Yeah.
here's my suggestion.
Then she's paid for the
I'm
cleanup.
texting
Problem
her as we speak to say, I need to talk to you. I'm the new president. I need to talk to you. What say we tell her that she needs to clean up? I'll tell her she needs to clean up after her events. And if she doesn't, in a month or two, if we have the same issue, then we institute a $250 deposit on the HROA events.
Since November 13th.
And she'll tell you that, well, how do I do that? And you tell her, take money out of your budget and hire a cleanup crew.
That's what I would say to do.
She has money.
That's what I would say to do.
She's under budget. And this is a new budget year. She got plenty.
What's
of
that?
I've advised her that a couple of times.
Yeah, pay somebody.
Well,
Yeah.
we're doing that. Or we have a
Okay.
motion to.
I have a
if-
motion
if-
and a
if needed,
second.
begin
Oh.
doing that. Yeah. Just
All in
formalize it.
favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay. I thought you were. gonna
What
s-
was the motion?
The motion was to charge them $250 every time they want to do
No,
it.
no, no, no.
Or I mean, give them,
no,
make, have them make
no.
a deposit.
Carol, that's not it.
Put a deposit.
They
Give a
put a
deposit.
deposit. They
Right.
hand a $250 check.
Right.
It
It
sits
sits there, yes, but yes, so that so that when they have an event, there's a deposit on hand to pay for cleanup if required.
Do we have additional trash containers
The-
at these events?
Okay,
Because that's a problem.
So you just voted to do that.
But why wouldn't the event organizer provide everything that they need to run this event?
And again,
That's the way events are.
yeah, because I don't object to the $250. I'm just saying, I don't know that it incentivizes anybody to, if the event's over and the trash is left, what, does the CDD come in and say, oh, look, there's trash, let's go hire somebody to, that's not how that's gonna work.
Well,
How does it
in
work?
In any facility use case of that happening, we would not return the deposit if they trashed our.
Right, and
facility.
then
I-
we would pay.
What's
That's
been
her other
happening
option.
is They go out and clean
If
it
she
up.
leaves it messy, we'll just keep the $250 deposit.
That's right.
If you don't want to hire a cleaning crew,
Right.
we will
Right.
charge her $250 to clean up and keep it.
And the next time she has an event, we'll charge her
So I agree
$250
with
and it'll be
that.
the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. But I wanted to give her the option to do it herself before
Well, this
we,
is,
She still has it.
she still has it.
Yeah, this,
It's not a charge, it's a deposit.
It's refundable.
Correct.
Right.
If the place is clean, and if it's not, the deposit.
and what about November 13th? We can't do that because it's already been approved.
You can talk to her.
Actually, she forgot to send it in. She just sent it in today, and said, oops, I forgot to send this in. The next event's November 13th, something like that. She just sent it in today.
Well, she's not a tough lady to get along with.
No, I've spoken to her. She's very nice.
She got a lot going on.
She just needs to.
this would just be
step it up.
formalizing.
All right,
You know, the sad reality, is she doesn't get any help with any of
Okay, we've got the replacement of the pool. It's holding together right now with the repairs you've made, the pool furniture, but we need to consider replacing it. That's on your agenda item.
It's
It's a
expensive.
very expensive, and I looked through several of the sites that proposals came from, and they have a wide variety. Is there a way to actually look at the furniture or maybe get samples or?
Well, this is actually the exact furniture from Hollywood.
Okay,
It's actually exactly the same furniture that we have. Obviously, it's evolved into a better quality material than
Mhm.
16 years ago, 15 years ago when we got these. Because these were made out of milk jugs, just
Mhm.
like the fence, and it deteriorates with UV.
yeah, I'm just amazed. Except for those cracks where they drilled the holes too close. That stuff is held up amazingly well, and it looks like it's brand
That's-
new when
and
cleaned
that's the
properly.
Problem with it, it always fails at the joint.
That's right. You got, I'll talk to you later. Don't leave. I want 2 pieces of that stuff.
Needs to be re-engineered is what.
Right, right.
Needs to happen with that. Mr. Engineer.
Let me
But-
hold the $250 deposit on it.
There you go. So-
you wanna table that?
We'll table that, and we also need fence proposals.
I have.
I was
tomorrow,
hoping they would be here today, but
What fence?
next month. The front fence on the front of the property,
Oh,
Big fence.
that.
Along
fence
192.
Along 192.
that fence.
It's coming time and it's gonna crumble beneath us without anybody touching it. District managers report.
The Harmony, I know we're running out of time. We are actually out of
Out
time.
of time,
Harmony
yeah.
invoices, I can table that until the next meeting. That's just options. It's not at all.
Okay. And the website.
The website, I know we talked about it last time. I'm getting a lot of calls regarding ADA compliance and can't find stuff on the website, updates, so a generality of things. My biggest thing is the ADA.
Mhm.
Got to watch out for that. There's a lot of that going on right now. It is going to trickle down, so.
Now, there's a group, and I keep hearing about them, and I know you discussed them like before I came on the board, but the lighthouse that they're staffed with folks that will actually review our website and advise us of what is and isn't and how to correct it. Is it possible we might want to contract with them and?
Proposals,
Okay.
there's a number of companies out there for ADA compliance, things that will do your whole website, so I can get multiple.
Okay, would that help? I just heard a big thing on NPR about. I was like,
Yes,
Yeah,
we've been down the road with many of
Mhm.
those compliance companies, and they all have an angle
Mhm.
and an objective. And the objective gets really expensive really quickly. And Supervisor Farnsworth did a admirable job dragging up the pertinent stuff and did it for nothing
Mhm.
and got that compliant. The key to this is, and Supervisor Lee understands, you gotta be careful what you post. It's gotta be convertible. As long as it's convertible for readability, we're safe. And I know you understand that.
Yep.
So I don't think we have a huge problem with the website, and there's probably a lot of stuff on there that should get jettisoned.
Yeah, maybe it,
Didn't we say,
we
how
just-
many years did we say of stuff? that needed-
7. It has,
years?
we were required to do 7. My personal thought is if it's up there, it's already ADA compliant, why jettison it unless it's
Well,
costing us
the-
to have it up?
Like he said, the point is making sure that, I mean, and this goes with, you know, the receipts and everything. I mean, the package for this, it was, you know, just the files were, you know, bigger than they've ever been.
Mhm.
And that's, you know, the important part is that they're, just as long as they're text searchable, then we can say that we're, you know, making the effort. We're, you know, we're not trying to keep anything hidden. We're providing all that information publicly and that it's accessible. You know, it's then up to the user to, you know,
Right.
But we got some complaints about that some of it
Yeah,
wasn't.
it's very hard to navigate through. You can't find any, I'm just blabbing the things that I have.
Well, that's
Are
not
we talking
necessarily
specific- are we
ADA
talking
issues, though.
Specifically about the agenda
No,
pack?
ADA I'm talking about because there are some cases coming up again about they're hitting websites again.
Oh.
They are-
But have you gotten complaints about our website?
user friendliness though.
The user.
It has nothing to do with the ADA.
But it's not about ADA compliance. It's about user friendliness.
Here's the deal on that. I'd be willing with that. People using their phone to go there. It doesn't work well on mobile. This is not a mobile website.
Yeah.
But it is
and
hard to
that's-
find
there's-
things. I mean, even when I've found things going back to it, it's hard.
Right, well, here's the menu, but I can click this, or I can scroll down and click this other thing, and they take you, yeah, I agree, they can be
Mhm.
streamlined.
Yes.
There-
it could-
there's-
So
Dan, do you need something else to do? I'm asking everybody tonight, do you need something else to do?
there is another individual in the neighborhood that's volunteered to help with the website.
Okay.
So afterwards, I'll give you his contact information and you can
Great.
check him out and see if,
Yeah, I mean.
I know you
again,
have to make sure somebody knows what they're doing.
Right, and absolutely, I mean, taking nothing away from what Supervisor Farnsworth done in the past. But I mean, the website has looked similar to this, I mean, going back.
That's just
years
like a
and years and
WordPress template that's been
Exactly,
converted.
exactly.
It's like,
And
yeah, so,
If you look at and more modern websites that are designed around one of those, it's
Yeah.
going to be a lot more streamlined and easier to get to things. So,
Well,
yeah, I'm-
Supervisor Farnsworth got to do it, it's even more movement.
understood. I will,
Are we
uh,
done?
Any other business to come before the board?
Move to adjourn.
second.
Seconded.
I'll
All in
second.
favor?
You got that, Angel?
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
we made it.
ugh.
More or less.
It was nice to have you and you stayed till. the
Thank you
end
for
with us.
staying.
Thank you. Wonderful, wonderful. It's a lot and it's confusing, but we're making it. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you for coming. Thank you,
All
Marilyn.
right, so I've got several things to sign, right? Let's see if I can find a good pen.
Okay, this is it right here,
I
right?
think I have a good pen.
There's a do not touch sign. All we do is touch. It says do
And
not touch. I
so
mean,
you'll
we
need
put
to
it back
notarize them.
how we found it when we're done, but if we want to, yeah. I
That
saw
stuff,
someone
yeah.
walked over and looked at it, at least. Right. Well, we'll make sure.
It was just this one page?
Yes, I put the signature pages right on top.
Okay, thank you.
Did it ever come up? Oh, it did, okay. So it would be fine for future notice matters.
Well, in the future, it'll have, it'll,
She didn't get it done? by
yes, yeah, it was questionable whether it'd be ready by today.